Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of the book club. Just very kindly paid us the most marvelous compliment, saying that Sunday evenings are wonderful because of the book club. Now, that's exactly what we love to hear. So thank you for saying it, Uma. Thank you very much. I'm so glad it's true for you. I hope it's true for many of us here, if not all of us, okay? Right, so today we have a very young speaker, Friana Munshi. Last time we had a 14-year-old girl. This time I think Friana is probably 20. So very, very young. Friana, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here today. Now, like all young people, Friana has lots of interests, but I'm so happy to hear that she wants to be a writer. And Friana, all the best. You're going about it the right way. Reading good books is the beginning of writing good books. So welcome aboard. Now, the book that she's going to be talking about is called Anxious People. And I do hope some of you made use of that free PDF online. I hope you downloaded it. I hope you read it. Friana, I must admit, I took the easy route. I saw the serial on Netflix. Okay.
Oh, I also saw it on Netflix.
Okay, great. So some of us know what it is about. Actually, Fredrik Backman's first book, something about Mr. Ovi.
A Man Called Ove.
A Man Called Ovi was presented by Sunita Shetty a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, something like that. And we enjoyed it very much. I still remember it to this day. And I'm sure this one is equally enjoyable. I think Fredrik Backman has a lovely sense of humor. So I think over to you, Friana. Take it from there.
Everyone should close their
yes, would everyone switch off their mics, please? So that only Friana has her mic on.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Friana, as ma'am introduced me, and I have come with a kind of book I've not read before, honestly. It was a first for me as well. And Fredrik Backman, this is my first book of his that I have read, and I must say that it took me very pleasantly by surprise. But before we really sort of engage into what the book is all about, I would ask all of you to think of a memory, any deep-rooted memory, where you have felt so anxious, where you have felt that you have your backs to the wall, there is no way out, and all you're getting is crazy ideas, anything but that kind of an idea, where you have suddenly started feeling that maybe there is no way out of this, only a miracle could save, or things like that. And I think this book itself is a story of that sort, where people have their backs to the walls and a miracle happens, and that miracle is people themselves. So what is exactly anxiety that Fredrik is talking about in this book? We are not going to go into a very psychological definition of anxiety. However, I would like to read a small excerpt from his work, from the work itself, which says, one of the most human things about anxiety is that we try to cure chaos with chaos. Someone who has got themselves into a catastrophic situation rarely retreats from it. We are far more inclined to carry on even faster. We've created lives where we can watch other people crash into the wall, but still hope that somehow we are going to pass right through it. The closer we get, the more confidently we believe that some unlikely situation is miraculously going to save us, while everyone watching us is just waiting for the crash. Now, for today's presentation, I would like to take it through certain sections. So first, we will speak a little bit about the author, a little about his works, very briefly. My first impression of the book, and then how it drastically changed later on. The book itself, of course, the plot, the characters, the themes, the writing style, all of that. And then we will sort of sum it all together. We will look even at how the adaptation at Netflix and the book were sort of different and yet the same. And we will talk about that as well. So the author, Fredrik Backman, is a Swedish writer. This is my first Swedish book, which we are reading in translation, translated by Neil Smith. Now, Fredrik Backman wrote as a columnist for the newspaper Helsingborg Dagblad. Forgive my pronunciation if it's not correct. And the magazine, a men's magazine called More Magazine. Now, Fredrik actually had developed anxiety 15 years ago, where, as he quotes, he was scared of everything. What happened was that he was involved in a robbery where he was shot in the leg, and after which he started getting anxious episodes and panic attacks, and he eventually sought treatment. Fredrik Backman has written 6 novels, 2 novellas, and 1 non-fiction. Very briefly, the very first book, as Mohini ma'am mentioned, was A Man Called Ove. It was his bestseller for 42 weeks, written in 2012. Another one of his fictions, which is quite popular, would be Bear Town series, which was bought by the Swedish production company called Filmlands, and is soon to be adopted into a series. His very second book turns out to be a non-fiction, which he wrote for his own son, based on his own experiences on parenting in 2012 itself, which he called The Things My Son Needs to Know About the World. And what he calls it as a dysfunctional parenting guide. So that is an interesting book. Right. Now, for my first impression, it is quite funny because I got this book as a present from my brother. And my brother is not a reader. And he just happened to go on Amazon, look at the books which were like the most popular at the time, people were buying, based on reviews. And then he looked at the book with the title and he found Anxious People. And I understand why, but I don't know how. But anyways, so the book ended up coming to me as a gift. And the only thing I had ever read about Anxious People was this small quote, right? Which said the story was about a lot of things, but mostly about idiots. So it needs saying from the outside that it's always very easy to declare that other people are idiots, but only if you forget how idiotically difficult being human is, especially if you have people you're trying to be a reasonably good human being for. And I think this one quote really, really intrigues you into what kind of a book this is, because I have never read a book of this sort, because mostly as a literature student, we read a lot of classics, we read a lot of detailed stuff, we read a lot of intricate stuff. And this is a very light-hearted book in that sense, especially the language, because it's more easy and it flows better compared to a hard read from 3-4 centuries early. So my first impression of this book was that it's witty and it still talks at a very, very innate level, which is not wrong. But I thought this was going to be a very humorous, just a humorous book, nothing more than that. However, I was very wrong in that sense. Yeah. So let's get into the book. First things first, the plot. The plot, first of all, includes the bank robbery, which very funnily was not a bank robbery as such. It was a woman who wanted to survive, who wanted to take care of her children, and was needed that 6,500 to sort of pay the rent and have custody of her children and be able to live after a divorce, because suddenly she was in the middle of nowhere, left without a job, left without a house, because her husband had an affair with her boss. So it's basically life that played a small trick on her within a weekend, and things just went from high to extremely low. Now this bank robbery goes extremely wrong because she enters a cashless bank, which is quite silly if you think about it. But she was not a criminal. She never thought about it. It was a very impulsive thing to do, to just get up one day and go to the bank and ask for that money, because she was that desperate. And afterwards, after a few very interesting conversations with the exchange with the person sitting at the receptionist, London, she feels threatened because London picks up the phone to call the police, and so she runs, and she goes into the first door that she sees open, which is apparently an apartment complex, and she goes to the apartment which is up for viewing, enters it and closes the door, and hence has a hostage situation now. But the thing is, she's the worst bank robber we've seen in all of literature. She cannot bank rob, she cannot hold people hostage. She is just a very desperate mother trying to make ends meet at one point. Now, that is one part of the plot. The other part is the bridge. The bridge is very symbolic throughout the novel. And the bridge is sort of like a parallel plot which is happening kind of in the past, where we have a similar person who was very desperate but decided to die by suicide. And even though a young officer finds him, and when he was very young, he finds him, that a child finds him, and he tries to ask him to not do it, but at the end of the day he jumps. And how that one person's suicide is like a chained effect to every character in this book is what is very intriguing. Even the people who don't know him, even the people who have spoken to him briefly, even the person who was trying to save him, everyone was affected by it in many different ways, which is something very beautifully brought out in the book. And the third person that we have in the third plot is what I would call it, but I'm not sure how much we can call it a plot. But Zara is somebody who brings the entire thing together. She has the knowledge. She's been in contact with the person who committed suicide. She's gone to the apartment viewing. She goes to a psychiatrist, which is like another side plot in its own self. So Zara turns out to be this sort of a link, which brings all the characters together at one point, because she even knows the policeman beforehand. So I think Zara becomes very important to this book, even more than the bank robber at one point, because she is the link to every character. So characters is one of the most important part of Bachman's novels, from what I've heard, because his character, and observed, his characters are very humane. You can, literally perceive the characters as real people, because they are very, they all have flaws and they all have their strengths. Each and every character, even a character like London, who's just sitting at the reception, a 20-year-old sitting at the reception, taking calls and, addressing to visitors. She also has a sort of a backdrop given, how at that age she's lost, how she's involved in social media, how she doesn't have friends. We are given a lot of insight into a character which is not even that major into the plot. And that makes Frederick's work very interesting. Now, so we have a huge variety of characters. First, we would talk about Jim and Jack, Jim as in the old officer, and Jack was the younger police officer. Now, we see a very interesting relationship between the two because there is no communication as such. The communication came from the mother, Jim's wife, and Jack's mother, who was sort of this link between the two. And after she has passed away, we see this emptiness in their conversations, or they don't address issues directly. It's a very indirect way of saying things, and very beautifully portrayed. And I think Jim didn't want Jack to become a police officer in the first place because of what Jack had witnessed in his past. So in the parallel plot, when we see that Jack was the young boy trying to save the man who tried to jump off the bridge 10 years ago, we see that Jack suffered a lot mentally because of it, because he had tried his best to, ask that man to step back, but he ultimately did jump off the bridge. So Jack is sort of very, very hugely affected by this. And Jim knew that these kind of things are going to make his job as a policeman more complicated. It's going to make him feel worse about himself. And therefore, Jim was a little against it. However, Jack did end up becoming a policeman at the end of the day. And so yeah, that kind of a relationship is what we get to see. Now, Jim thinks that Jack wanted to become a police officer because he saw the man jump. However, it is interesting to note that it was the psychiatrist Nadia, when she was a child, had come to that same spot a week after the man and had tried to jump off the bridge after hearing about how the man had jumped off the bridge. Because she herself was a little depressed, going through a rough patch of teenage years. And as she states, there was nothing really wrong, but everything was wrong in that sense. And Jack manages to save Nadia. And that is what sort of fuels his drive to become a police officer and save all those he could. Next, Nadia herself, after going through an episode where she tries to understand the difference between herself and the person who committed suicide, and what is the difference between the two, between the one who jumped and the one who didn't jump. And later on, she turns out to become a psychiatrist. Zara becomes her patient. Zara has been keeping an eye on her, apparently, and has been keeping a track of her life, and eventually one day goes to her as one of her patients. Right. Then we have we spoke about our London. Right. The bank robber herself, as we said, was not a very smart bank robber, but very humane. And even the hostages replied so differently when she entered the apartment, as if it was an they weren't threatened by her at all, which speaks volumes. Even though she had a gun in her hand, they all thought it was a toy gun from the way she held it, and which turns out to be a real gun at the end. But yeah, so they thought it was a toy gun, and everyone was a little overwhelmed by that. And they didn't care. They were having their own issues. Everyone was coming from their own sort of a personal backdrop. But the bank robber was not really cruel, definitely not. She even writes a letter to London after the whole episode is over to apologize to her for scaring her at the bank like that. So the bank robber was just a mother. And then you have the two children mentioned, which they keep calling as the monkey and the frog. From the author's thank notes, we can say that they are inspired from his own children. Even Bachman has two children. However, he has a son and daughter. And here we have two daughters. But yes, so he has sort of taken a inspiration from there. He has included a lot of biographical elements in his writing, especially when it comes to the person who committed suicide. because Backman also knows a person called Jay, who says about whom he says that I still think about you almost every day. I am so sorry you couldn't bear it any longer. I hate myself for not being able to save you. And of course, the whole robbery and everything kind of stems out from his own experiences where he went through a robbery and he was shot in the leg. And the book's idea itself, he says, comes from an apartment viewing that he himself went to once. So you will find a lot of biographical elements in his writing. Right. So next, I think we can speak about the hostages. Right. So we have two couples in the hostage situation caught up. One is Annalena and Roger, who've been there for, who've been married for a very long time, and Julia and Ro, who are newlyweds and are like not married for too long, not newlyweds, but not married for too long. And Julia is pregnant, and Julia and Ro are looking for a home, while Annalena and Roger are looking for an investment. They want to buy the apartment, furnish it, and sell it back for more money. While Julia and Ro are looking for a home where they can settle down and have the child and, you know, lead a peaceful life. Now, at first glance, when we look at Annalena and Roger, Annalena looks as if she's constantly been in Roger's shadow all this time, where you know, she's just going with whatever Roger says. You know, if Roger says like, you know, it sounds like he makes Annalena sound dumb, which is actually not the case, because Annalena has had a very, very successful career as a senior analyst, while Roger has sacrificed his career for her sake and has lived with children at home all his life. And what Annalena wants to do is give Roger that same experience that she's had all these years. And this, due to this, they sort of start finding this project of buying apartments, furnishing them, and selling them as something common between the two, so that, you know, Roger feels needed, because right now they are both retired. Roger can't get back to his job. He has never accomplished much in life because he sort of gave up that joy for his family. And Annalena wants him to feel that joy, that accomplishment, that he is winning at some point, like she has been winning all her life. And so at one point, I think Roger is very, very sensitive. And at the same time, I think it is kind of justified. Also, when they're talking about furnishing the house and all of that, it makes she makes him sound more intelligent and more mature, and you know, the one leading the relation. And at one point, when this common project where he thinks he is doing the work, where he's negotiating, he's getting the apartments at you know, cheap prices, suddenly he finds out that Annalena has hired a person called Leonard, who is sort of sabotaging all these apartment viewings, which is what leads to the price actually going down, and not Roger's own brain and own tactics, which hurts Roger very deeply. As for Julia and Ro, they are just scared of becoming parents, because Ro has rejected 20 apartments by the time they come to this apartment. And Ro really, it's about finding that one fault and thinking that she is a bad parent. She's going to be a bad parent. It is that innate fear which makes her reject apartments, which makes her reject things. And Ro actually happens to be an immigrant, a refugee, who happens to meet Julia, and because at Julia's shop, where Julia is a florist, and Ro comes to buy flowers from her. And they really do share a lot of compassion for one another, where you see Julia with her pregnancy mood swings and being a little harsh towards Ro all the time. However, that is not how it's supposed to come out as. It's more about them having a mutual relation. Zara is a high-class bank manager whose hobby happens to be attending apartment viewings of the middle and lower class people and observing them. But what we don't realize until later part of the novel is that she's not actually there to observe the people. She only visits apartments which look at the bridge, because she had been in contact with the man who committed suicide, and he was looking for a loan to make up for all the losses he had incurred due to a crash in the stock market somewhere. And he had incurred a huge loss where he was in utter debt, and he contacts Zara to get a loan, which Zara refuses. And the next day, he sort of commits suicide. And he leaves a letter for Zara at her doorstep, which she does not open even after 10 years because she's too scared to know what he had to say in his last moments. And so she constantly keeps thinking about this man who committed suicide, and it sort of leads her to become quite lonely. She does not indulge in social activity. She does not talk to a lot of people, and ultimately, as Nadia diagnoses her, she is lonely. Also, Zara witnesses when Jack saves Nadia at the bridge when they were younger, because she keeps visiting the bridge after the incident. Leonard is a character which comes in quite hilarious, because he comes in with a stuffed rabbit head and just his underwear, and he's just found in the bathroom. And it's quite unsettling to find someone like that at an apartment viewing. And Leonard is somebody who has a lot of insight about people. He is able to read people very easily, owing that he has sabotaged to so many apartment viewings and been to so many places and seen so many different kinds of people, that he's able to sort of read people. But the one person he's unable to read is Zara. And quite fascinating enough, they sort of click together, where Leonard understands Zara at another level and tries to figure her out. And so they sort of have this chemistry going on, where eventually they meet each other more often. Leonard is the sort of character which even talks about how the people belonging to the arts section, or people who act, do not earn more. He kind of symbolizes that in a sense, because we see him mention in the book itself that he's an actor, but that he cannot manage just being an actor. He did not get paid enough, and hence he has to take up these sabotage jobs in viewings, which pays him well. Estelle is the 80-year-old woman who claims to have come to the apartment viewing with her husband who is parking the car. However, we later find out in very, very late sections of the book that the husband actually has been dead for quite some time now. And Estelle is actually the owner of the apartment. Estelle is somebody who has been the most, in a sense, unreal, because nobody is that compassionate towards a bank robber within 5 minutes of the bank robber entering the house to take everyone hostage. Estelle acts a little strange in that sense, because she immediately goes to talk to the bank robber. And then she's very, very accommodating of everyone over there, offers them food, sort of gives herself away by, taking out the wine from the closet and asking repeatedly for if they wanted food because there is some in the freezer. However, there should be, is what she says. And Estelle is a sort of the key to this whole problem where they are stuck in the house and the bank robber needs rescue. Now, these hostages get so well, so familiar with one another, each other's problems, they hear each other's stories, that eventually they decide to help the bank robber, even though the bank robber is ready to get up and give herself up. And Estelle actually had an affair with her neighbor where she has the key to his apartment and she sort of hands it over to the bank robber and she then lives there. She sort of goes there while everyone leaves. So Estelle becomes another very, very key character in the novel. Now, the book itself has a lot of themes. It touches upon almost every aspect of life that I can imagine. So first, let's start with banks. Banks, there is a lot of criticism of banks actually throughout the novel because this all starts with financial crisis. So you will see that repeated criticism of banks, of how the banks are sort of not giving money to those who need, but giving it to money to people who have money, because they can't give you loans if you don't have the guarantee to pay those loans back. So very interestingly, banks are being showed. And then towards the end, you see Zara sort of clearing the name of the banks in that sense, that she says, banks are a system that we have created, and we've created it so strong that we didn't take into account the people's greed and people's ambition, and that is why we suffer from whatever happens. And which in a sense is fair enough, because these banks, according to her, is what maintains the balance of not having too much want and too much greed. Next is identity. Now, the bank robber's identity has been such a mystery throughout the book that almost until chapter, I think, 46, 47, you do not know if the bank robber is even a woman or a man, because she's constantly addressed in a third person narrative. Right. The very gender neutral terms are used to refer to the bank robber all the time. And until you finally find out that she's a woman. And then you start thinking whether what she's doing, is it justified as a robbery? Is it justified as a hostage situation? Is she a criminal then? If she's doing this for her children, if she's that desperate because nobody would help her. And of course, there was a way out of all of that, but yeah. The town versus city is quite interesting because of the use of the word Stockholm. Stockholm is the capital of Sweden, and this whole entire novel is set in a small town in Sweden. So we see this town versus city comparison come up, where everything new, anything extravagant, anything they have never heard of, anything which is very striking comes from the capital. It always comes from the city, the big area. These things don't happen in town. But when they come to the town, they are quite accepting of it in a certain sense because it has come from the city. For instance, when Estelle is referring to homosexuality or of Romeo and Juliet, she calls them Stockholmers, which means which basically indicates that this is something that has come from the city and was never in the town. Then you have your police officers coming from Stockholm, because nobody in the police officers in town cannot manage a hostage situation, because these sort of things don't happen in town. Which means that this town was so small and everyone knew each other that a hostage situation and a bank robbery is something they hadn't heard of in a long, long time. And to handle a situation like that, which happens more on a daily basis, almost in a city area, they have to call people from the capital and from the city because the people in the town cannot manage it. That is the mindset. Another place where they very cleverly use Stockholm is Stockholm Syndrome, where the sort of all the hostages are just so empathetic towards one another and eventually towards the bank robber that they are sort of swept by her. They don't want her to get caught. They don't want her to get punished for being a mother, for being that desperate and being in this situation. So that in that sense, the Stockholm Syndrome also comes out. Relationships and parenthood, I think, is one of the major themes of this book, because we see a lot of different relationships. We see the relationship of Jack with his drug addict sister. We see a father-son relationship with Jack and Jim. We see your couples, Julia and Ro. We see Annalena and Roger. We also see Nadia and Jack in that sense. We see Leonard and Zara. So we see a lot of different kinds of relationships and parenthood related concerns come out, with Julia being pregnant and Jim being a father and being scared about his son going into a building, especially with that one episode where he thinks that the box outside someone's house is like a bomb. So that sort of comes through. Morals and ethics are a very big question, because what makes a bank robber, or how much is justified? What kind of what is justified? Like, is murder justified? Is theft justified? Is if you're talking about murder not being justified, then what is with the killing of the animals? What is with killing of birds for food and such things? If it is justified, then to what extent? If it saves someone's life, is that justified then, that you kill someone to save someone else's life? And if so, how? So your morals and ethics are questioned constantly, even with the bank robbery. Is it justified for her to rob the bank? And she is not robbing the bank with a mindset of $10 billion or something like that. She's asking for 6,500 to pay 1 month's rent, which she wishes to pay back somehow, which definitely seems impossible. But so it's sort of is a play on what actually is ethical and what is actually moral. Of course, the book deals with suicide, depression, and anxiety. It talks about a lot. It talks a lot about mental health. You see it throughout the book, where you see talks about anxiety, about panic attacks, about not being able to control your emotions, how people cope with their emotions. Some listen to loud music like Zara does, or you see emotional sort of slips in Roger's action when he's knocking on the wall, or when Ro is thinking about her future child. You see these different aspects of mental health and of emotionality, and it all comes through very, very well with his style of writing itself. Now, there's something I would like to talk about, the writing style in this book. As we see, the plot is very the plots go around parallel. We are taken to the past, then to the present, past, present. We keep going back and forth. At the same time, the writing in itself is very simple. The examples, the anecdotes, the expressions, the symbolisms, all of this is very, very simple in that sense. There is nothing overly complicated with the writing in itself, like in the words itself. The narrator is omniscient, who gives us like a third person view on everything, which makes this much more easier to understand, and gives a view of the complete personality of every character, which I think helps a lot with this kind of a plot where we have so many characters. Another thing is, of course, it is witty and humorous. The whole episode where, let's say, the bank robber is there with the gun and Roger wants to shoot Leonard, who has just emerged from the bathroom in his rabbit head and keeps asking the bank robber for the gun. And the bank robber is really frustrated because nobody is listening to the bank robber in a hostage situation. And so you see these very hilarious, genuinely witty moments. Also, he's used a lot of philosophical lines in the book throughout. You see a lot of lines which, talk about, like the excerpt I read at the very beginning about how, people are looking at situations, how people feel in a certain emotion, how, we deal with things in day-to-day life. And it, at one point, maybe it is a little preachy because it is a throughout the book. It is in huge, vast quantities. But at the same time, for somebody who enjoys introspecting when they read or who wants to think about themselves, I think it sort of helps with that process. Right. So the novel reaches out to a lot of contemporary problems. It goes out to homosexuality. It talks about parentage. It talks about relationships, refugees, domestic violence, patriarchy, mental health, addiction, social media, internet life, and also to an extent, it also touches upon religion very briefly. And for a 350-page novel to speak about all of these is, I think, a very difficult job for the writer to bring out all of these problems, or rather situations, so effectively. And also, when we compare this book with this series, there are a lot of changes. For example, the entire character of Nadia, which I think is a little important to skip, has been completely eliminated from the series, which is kind of sad because Nadia really was a good character, which brought out a lot in Zara. We saw a lot of characteristic features of Zara. And I think not a lot of things can come out in a series because there are limitations of what you can show, how you can show within the span of time. Also, monologues and such stuff tends to get deleted. So I think the adaptation didn't do that as well a job as required. The book definitely goes into a lot more detail with every single character. Also, I think the book in itself speaks of a lot of utopian mindset, in the sense that when they are all hostages and when they are all in that one room, nobody has judged Ro for looking different than everyone else. The maybe pointed out that she looks different, but nobody has commented on it. There is no weird or rejected view of homosexuality between Ro and Julia. There is it's sort of accepting a lot of differences and a lot of changes, and I think that is what makes it very special in that sense. Also, bridges is a very important thing that I found in the novel, because literally at one level it is talking about the bridge which we see in the novel. Then at one level it is talking about that very bridge connecting all these characters, and in a sense helping Zara cross that bridge. This entire incident has helped Zara cross that bridge, take the envelope to Nadia and ask her help to read it, the 4 words which said that it wasn't her fault, and which meant the world to her. So she has crossed that bridge in this entire situation. And also it has sort of bridged the gap between Jim and Jack, or Julia and Ro, or Roger and Annalena, who have started to understand each other a bit more than they already did. So I think this novel in itself is really exceptionally heartwarming. I have tried to bring out at least a gist of everything in the novel, but there is a lot more because there is every character is so detailed and so interlinked that it is quite impossible to cover it all in an hour. But for now, I think this is all I have to say. So thank you.
Priyana, that was excellent. Could you switch off the, what do you call
Share
it?
screen.
Yeah.
Screen.
Stop sharing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Stop sharing, and then we can talk also.
Yes, would everyone can now switch off the screens,
I
please?
have enjoyed it thoroughly, your explanation. I haven't read the book, but I've seen the movie, seen the series,
Serial.
and it came off. Your storytelling was excellent part of the thing. Congratulations. I think St. Mira's is going to have a number of girls coming up and talking to us. Harleen is going to be asked. I'm going to chase Harleen definitely, and also Lujain Hussaini. So don't worry, girls, you'll have to come on. And yes, believe you me, doing this strengthens your quality of thinking. You look into a depth of life, and that is very important in today's life, not just engineering, medicine, chartered accountancy, but have a wider sense of it. So I'm very happy to hear Priyana way she analyzed. Thanks a lot. Now, anyone wanting to ask her questions, please, or I'll ask people what they think. Come on, girls.
Yeah. Can I ask you something?
Mohini, go on.
I think, Priyana, you did a very good job. Particularly, I liked your explication of the small town syndrome. You know, the nature of these characters being small town people and therefore what they are, and the symbolism of the bridge. You brought that out very
well.
Now, I watched the serial. Now, I don't know why they call it a series. It's not a series, it's a serial, clearly. But anyway, I watched the serial. And one thing I felt, which I want to ask you, is that so in the novel? And your answer will probably be no, but I'd like to hear it. So in the serial, sometimes things were very slow and characters looked like they weren't acting well, you know, like the policeman and his father, they kind of expressionless or so little, especially the father. I mean, I felt like shaking him at times and saying, hey, let's see some emotion, you know, what you're feeling, aren't you feeling anything? So probably it's not so in the novel, right?
No. I think, funnily enough, the policeman had the most emotion after Zara and the bank robber. They had the most emotions that came out in the novel, especially the son. Because no, actually, sorry, the father, because you know, there's a whole portrayal of him losing his wife. There is a portrayal of having a addict daughter, which he can't accept as an addict. There is the entire having to work with the son and trying to communicate with the son but not being able to. So that entire thing is missing in the series, definitely. Also, some of the characteristics which were actually attributed to Jim were given to Jack, and those attributed to Jack were given to Jim in the series, which quite annoyed me personally, because it was like the characters had just interchanged and nobody cared. So that sort of did get me, because it was Jim who was scared of the Christmas lights being a bomb and not Jack, whereas it was shown quite the opposite in the series. And even that, you know, even those bits give you a little more of the character. So I think that is where the serial really let me down in that sense.
Okay.
I'm going to ask all the newcomers to speak up, and the last two will be Wispy and Indu, because they will be able to tell you from the English literature point of view, like Mohini has said, these two ladies would be there. Okay, come on. Lujain, how do you pronounce your name? Lujain?
Yes, it's Lujain.
What is your take on the story?
I think it's the way that she has told the story, and it brings out the depth of every character being told in such a small space is truly amazing, because you have a lot of character development in different novels, but the take on it is not that deep and it's not so well made, which is something that really took me in all her explanations.
What do you have to say, Friana, to that?
I think I definitely agree with what Lujain says, because even when I read the novel for the first time, I was really stunned by how he has made such complete characters, completely rounded, have their development, have their flaws and their perfections, and everything come together in that small space with so many of them. So I think that was great.
Hardly, you don't hide yourself.
Sir, I'm right here.
Go ahead.
I'm right here. There's something really important that Friana pointed out is the very utopian characteristic of the entire narrative. And I feel like it coincides so beautifully with the very title of the story, because the things that the things that could make somebody so anxious, like homophobia and racism and issues like unemployment and economic crunch in somebody's life and financial issues and even certain subtle senses of abuse, you sort of, these things that could trigger people very easily are very beautifully dealt with by being presented as something very normal, by giving that touch of normalcy to it, and things that we're actually afraid to question, like as Mohini ma'am said, the small town syndrome, or the entire thing of morals and ethics when it comes to even political morals and ethics and administrative moral ethic. These things are actually brought to the light. And it is a perfect book for every anxious person to read, because it will not make you anxious about the things that will make you anxious, but will make you anxious about the things that you should think about. And I really love that. That was something that stuck out to me the most.
Okay. Vedanti, you got some Korean, or is it Japanese writing against your name? So that's why you're caught out. So Vedanti, please. Vedanti, please speak up.
Vedanti suddenly disappeared, Satish.
Oh, she disappeared.
Hid her.
Okay.
I see her. I can't see her anywhere.
Mala Shah has come in after quite some time. So Mala, why don't you let us know what about it? What you feel about it? Mala? Okay.
Yes.
I just sent a message saying, I'm sorry, I have to leave, but thank you. I enjoyed that. I'm sorry I can't be so regular with the book club meetings. Usually Sunday evenings are a little crowded with other things, but I made it a point to come on this evening because I had enjoyed A Man Called Oaf so very much. I enjoyed Fredrik Backman's that novel very much. I will definitely, after Friana's review today, analysis today, would like to read this book. But I think I noted some sort of parallels, and almost, I don't know whether Friana, he's written it in that same kind of deadpan style. You can always just think of it as a very stark, Swedish landscape, and his writing is akin to that. I don't know if that's the same style, but some of the themes I think were reminiscent, the immigrants or the, just the suicide, that the little bit of, I think, human isolation that one senses in his novels. So I think that sort of seemed to be an underlying theme. And then I think it was also quite a brilliant, because I haven't read this book, so I can't speak so deeply about it. But, when you said the Stockholm Syndrome, so it's almost ironic that you've got this lot of bank robbers who are now the bank robber, who, and then the bank employees are totally in sympathy with him. So I think that must be the really big, play on it, or the great big punch in this book. I haven't read it, so I wouldn't
No, it
really
is. It
again
is. You
know
are very
that,
correct.
but I will certainly read this, and which is why I joined in.
Maya,
And,
Maya,
really,
it is there in the movie we saw. I saw the movie. It is there. The
yes.
Stockholm syndrome comes out
Right.
very sharply.
Right. So I would
Okay.
look for the series as well. So, this is great for me because this just brings me into that, gives me a peep into the literary world from which I really miss and I'm really so far from. I was just looking right now at the Jaipur Festival online bookings. And I was thinking, I must do that, So thank you, Mohini. Thank you, Gyanada, Satish, of course, for bringing this into our homes. And I will keep up as much as I can.
And let's hope that in a year or two we'll be able to go down to Jaipur Lit Fest also.
Seriously.
I
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Sunita's
physically
gone there.
travel
Sunita
there.
was with
As
us
a
this
group,
last
as a book club, perhaps. Yeah.
Mhm,
But
sounds lovely.
Priyana, thank
Hey.
you, my dear. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shehnaz, where are you? Are you there, Shehnaz? Shehnaz used to be a regular at the book club and suddenly this happened. I saw her just now somewhere. Shehnaz, are you
Oh.
there? I think she's gone there. Okay. Last person, I think, before I go to you two, is Suchitra Sonarka, who's come. Oh, no, I will go to one more. There's someone called Vedanti. I love like that name.
Vedanti is not being let off the hook.
Yes, Vedanti. I like the name. That's why I said, okay, I don't see her around. Vedanti, please.
Satish, I think she's escaped you.
She's escaped. Okay, Vedanti.
Now, I just wanted to, a small comment from what Mala said. I think it's a very droll sense of humor. That's the impression probably in both the novels. It's enjoyable, of course. I also like that sense of inclusivity, Priyana, what you said, that everything is made to look so normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very wholesome, if I may say, a very wholesome attitude to take. Yes, Satish, you
Okay.
can go on to other
Okay,
people.
I'm going to ask Vispi and then Indu. Both of them are English teachers, so they will be able to give a proper, give you a real good response. Vispi, you're on.
Yeah, Satish, I think I'm going to let you down today because I didn't have time to read the book. So my comments can only be based on what I heard Priyana present and her stress on characters. I think characters really make a novel. And when she said that they are so human, so you feel that you get to know them. And so so my comments, as I said, are based on Priyana's analysis, and I think also on what Harleen said a short while ago. I think she made some very, very relevant observations. I feel if characters are well presented and you feel you get to know them as you read a novel, then they stay with you.
Yes.
And this appears to me to be what Bachman has achieved. So I thank you for introducing me to some writers and some novels, because I'm sorry to say I hadn't heard of Bachman earlier. So I've missed that first novel of his also. So joining your book club, I think, has given me access to works that I'm not aware of. But because you come on with such rapidity every week, which is wonderful, it's sometimes a bit difficult to keep up. Yeah.
Oh, I agree, Vispi. It is difficult. It is difficult. But I try to read as many books as I can. I guess that's what we all do.
That's right.
Oh, okay. There's a girl called Parita Shah. It's a new name. So Parita, because of your unusual name, I'm catching on to you. What is your take on today's talk?
So one thing that I loved is the way Priyana literally explained the entire story. To be honest, when I first read the book, the things that caught to me were like when he said this book is about idiots. when I first started reading about the characters and the way they were portrayed, I actually thought like, no, really, these people really are idiots. Like, there's no way a person could be like this in real life. But the more you get into the story, the more you get indulged into it, you realize that they are all just very human. They are just playing that way. And then at the end of the book, you just feel like you have connected to all these characters, the way they have developed so much throughout the book. And it's just so heartwarming. It you feel so connected to them. It's as if they've become a part of you. And there's just one thing that when I watched the serial really annoyed me was that they literally cut out a very important character from the book, which is Nadia, the psychologist that Zara was seeing. And she was such an important part to the story because she connected Zara to Jack, and and the reason Jack became a police officer was her. So the entire part where she was being cut off, it just made a very big disconnect with the real story. So yeah, that is what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mo, I think, no, wait, Indu.
No, Indu is going to comment.
Indu, waiting for you.
I found it very fascinating because Anil is reading the first book, A Man Called Ove, and the humane approach. And when you said flawed, I was just thinking of a line. When God made man, did the hand of the potter shake? I don't think there's any perfect human being. We are all flawed. And I think your Backman is able to bring out those little flaws in a very subtle manner and with a touch of comic humor. And when you speak of the characters, and somebody said the policeman and somebody, I was only thinking they might be what you call it, predictable characters, like flat characters versus the unexpected things, the round characters that we looked at in Foster. And so these are, response to a situation, therefore they are unpredictable, therefore they are rounded characters. You never know what they might do in a given situation with their back against the wall in that particular thing. Otherwise, you'd be a great writer if you put your pen to paper and your imagination. You'd enjoy writing, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may add a little,
Go ahead, Anil.
I just started reading the book, Man Called Ove, and I could connect with your presentation of this because I could see the writing style. It cannot be very different. And he has his unique, humorous way of looking at things. ये क्या मजाक हो रहा है kind of approach. And then, but that is at the starting point. Then it makes you think at the same time, which is very interesting. You look, the language is light-hearted, but the thinking is deep. So that's very interesting, and that is what is holding me to that book. I've just started reading it. It'll take me some time. At this age, we read slowly.
There's no age is just a number. Don't worry.
Another thing I want to say is this generation is very, very different. I didn't have 1/4 of a brain when I was running.
Come on, we were engineering students and management students.
All of you young.
Literature didn't exist with us.
Yeah.
Badri, good to see you. You are going to be speaking, I think, next week. Oh,
No, not next week. I think, when is it, Badri? In February?
Badri, when are
Probably
you
next
speaking?
month.
I'll be on 13th of Feb.
Okay, okay, sometime. But please keep on coming. You'll understand how we are organizing this. Okay, thank you all. And let me
13th
just-
of Feb.
13th of Feb. Mohini, take over now. And after that,
Yeah, okay.
Farooq has to say something about the next program also.
Yes, sure, absolutely. So Friana, thank you very much. Not only did you do a very good job, but I enjoyed your slides very much. Friana is our tech genius, by the way, in this class. And whenever I can't do something, she helps. So you've done a very good job with your slides. I really liked them very much. That was terrific. And I think one of the good things, I mean, lots of people have said lots of things about this novel. Can I just say that I found the relativity of all things, something which we have to accept and ponder and realize that, nothing is just simply right or wrong. Nothing is black or white. There are shades to everything. And what may be technically maybe something that we can, in all our humaneness, sympathize with. Okay, before I go further, Badri has raised his hand. So yes, Badri, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I'm not a regular reader of fiction books, and I want you to know how this anxious people could be a friction. I really appreciate the creative thinking the author has in creating so many characters with so much of speciality. Otherwise, normally I'm a person who land myself, I'm an adventure traveler. So either I land myself in an anxious moment or makes others land in
Others anxious.
Today I'm just realizing, how
others anxious, most likely it is the wife, I bet. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so big thank you to Friana, who had the courage to do this. It's her first time. It does require courage. Friana, I'm so glad you showed that courage. Now, next time is going to be easier, right? And, sometimes you were groping for words. Well, next time they will come easier to you, right? So thanks a lot. Let me just tell you what's going to happen in the couple of weeks to come. So next time, we did have someone going to speak to us on the writings of Borges, but that cannot happen. So I'm filling that slot. And Sunita, you might be interested to know that after you did the Paris Library, which I enjoyed very much, somehow a lot of books with the word library in the title just came my way. So there was the Night Library, the Mysterious Library, the Strange Library, and also the Midnight Library. So what I'm doing next time is the Midnight Library. It's the one that I'm going to be doing. And after that, on the 23rd of January, Monica Das is going to be dealing with 3 short stories from her collection. Now, I'm going to be putting out PDFs or some kind of link to these 3 stories that she's going to concentrate on. Her collection is called The Other Woman. It deals with, polygamy and so on and so forth. Women in that situation where gender politics enters the picture very strongly. So Monica Das is the editor, and she has chosen stories by very well-known writers. So people like Mahashweta Devi and so on and so forth. So I will be giving you links to 3 of the stories. I hope you will read them so that the discussion will become more meaningful for you. All right. And then on the 30th of January, Indu Kulkarni will be talking about the poems of Robert Frost. So those are the items we have in January. Thank you. And over to Farooq now.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to Friana, such a young person giving such a lovely presentation. Not only that, but Satish was able to pull in all the young people to speak, and that was a very welcome and refreshing change. So congratulations to everybody. From Gyanadhar sides, from the other part of the Gyanadhar, next week we are going to have a program on Kabir. I've located 2 by Bihari singers, and they sing beautifully, using just a tabla and a small instrument. And tomorrow we are going to do the recording of that, and that is going to be next week. Before I end my conversation, I'll just also tell you that on 26th of January, we have the, I'll just finish with the,
These are the two singers who just walked into my bungalow that day and they just played on the matka, and I thought maybe I just give them a chance and let's see what they do. So on this is next Saturday, and on 26th we have a person which Satish Khota introduced me, Mr. Ramesh, who's going to do some program on jazz, something like East meets West, something like what jazz is in the Western world and what is jazz in the Bollywood music. Am I right, Satish? Is that what is going to cover?
It's a very interesting program that in Indian music, we cannot write it down what it has to be done. And but when you're recording something, you have to do it correctly. So who could do it? So once the song was written, doing the work for which trumpet will play, which drums will play, how it will be done, this was done by the Goan musicians who were very were experts in Western classical music when they write it down. And these were the jazz players in Bombay. And Chick Chocolate is one name I remember very well because that's the only one that I saw when I was young. But later on, when an IIM Calcutta used to have those people. So this is the Hindustani music, filmy music stood on legs of jazz, and that's how it has come. And I think Farooq has got a very good idea of listening to both and trying to understand that.
On 5th of February, we have a program on eclipses by Mustafa Lokhandwala. This is part of our Gyanpedia series.
5th of
February. That's a Saturday.
Yeah.
And then maybe a week after that, we are going to have, Mr. Hassan. He is a relative of Mukul. Mukul has introduced me to Mr. Hassan. He has written a book on Ghalib in English. And I'm planning to do this program of Ghalib in English and Urdu and get one or two people who are from our Guldasta Urdu to sing some of the poems of Ghalib. And also Hassan will be in conversation. I'm requesting, Mukul to come into conversation. But, Mukul is trying to escape, but I'm trying to get her.
No. Don't worry. Otherwise, we'll go to her house and tell her that.
She contributed very nicely to the Lajwanti program yesterday. Yesterday was a wonderful program on Lajwanti.
Yes, I know. We were there.
Yeah, and post the reading of the story, a lot of good conversation was there. Then later on, 24th of February around, we are having a program on somebody who has made a 24-inch telescope. The guy made a 4-inch telescope, then he made a 10-inch, now he's made a 24-inch telescope. Very few people have made such a big telescope in a non-institutional way, somebody making a telescope. This gentleman is from Portland and he's going to go beyond astronomy. He's going to talk about cosmology. So it's going to be a very interesting program. That guy is going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to conduct a program for us at 7 o'clock in India. So this is what is lined up, and maybe one day we'll do the program on the leopards of Bollywood, which Satish has shared with me a CD. And I think so, Mr. Prakash Thorse, he is the ex-forest officer of
Forest officer, he was the chief principal forest.
Conservationist.
Yeah, so a lot of things to grab your Saturdays and Sundays, and hopefully we are able to execute all there, like they say, inshallah, and Shabba Khair, and thank you everybody for being present today.
And not just there are plenty of things. We'll be keeping on sending you information about what is happening. Please come and participate. Also, you realize that we are trying to get donations for Nityasha. This is an NGO for very, very poor patients of
Type 1 diabetes.
Type 1 diabetes, and who cannot.
Type 1 diabetes.
Type 1 diabetes, which requires them to have injections twice a day or maybe even 3 times a day. So we're trying to support them, and we want you to please help us. And anyone can just ring us up and say, okay, I would like to make a contribution. We'll tell you how to do it. Okay, beta, everyone. And thank you very, very much. I think the girls have shown. Farooq, go on.
And all our programs are going to be are also on Facebook, and immediately after this program, I'll be putting the links for the Facebook, which is an unedited version. And by Monday, Tushar Shingare will be putting an edited version on Facebook and YouTube. And all our programs are in the archive of gyanadab.org. So I suggest everybody, if you get a chance, go on gyanadab.org. If there's any program that you have missed out, any book club event that you have missed out, everything is there on the video, as much as we could do. And quite a lot of it is there on Facebook also.
And Friana, tell your friends who did not come to go and listen to that. And tell your teacher also what you have done. Okay? Moini, yours now.
Okay, so you have lots of food for thought, right? Coming your way. So goodbye for now. See you next Sunday for book club, Saturday for Guldasta, and so on. As Farooq says, we have your weekends organized for you. Okay, bye-bye, everybody. All the best. Thank you for being here.
And
Come again.
Friana,
See you next time.
congratulations.
Thank you.